It is interesting to note that the Deputy Director for the Department of Health, before even the roads were open, and then again about 2 weeks later, made statements saying that there were no health effects from this release, even though he didn't know how much was released. Part of what he apparently based that on, and I'm reading newspapers now. I didn't listen to Mr. Gill himself, but part of what he based that on was apparently a belief that wind speeds during the release were extremely high, in the neighborhood of 50 to 75 miles an hour. However, reviewing all the data that's available, the wind speeds at 7:30 when this occurred, especially down low, were not particularly high. The wind speeds didn't pick up until much later, and so I'm not sure that the assumptions that Mr. Gill made in assuming there could be no health effects were in fact correct assumptions, because I think it's possible that we had a significant release, and I believe that the wind speeds were much lower than those that he quoted.
Concern from community folks is, well, Mike, why did you guys stay online when you knew a hurricane was coming? Okay, which is a good question, valid point. And what I shared with the folks at the last meeting that I was invited to is that, number one, PGV is committed to delivering energy to HELCO and ultimately to folks that are using electricity. And the key behind that is that there is this pretty serious weather storm that's approaching us. And folks who are using energy need energy to provide and prepare for this storm. In addition to that, folks were interested in what was going on. They wanted to be updated as far as, okay, well, where is it now? Is it a Category 1, or is it a tropical storm, or is it even worse? And so our commitment was based on that. And there's other reasons behind that, but that's our primary point on that. In addition to that, knowing that the storm front was coming in, we took extra steps in preparing for this event. We reviewed all of our emergency response procedures. This is not the first storm that we've gone through, okay? So we reviewed our procedures. We made conscious decisions to bring in additional personnel. And in addition to that, we actually made discussions with HELCO and consciously reduced our output. That's my second main point. And thirdly, we have full confidence in our plant, and we built our plant to be able to ride through bad weather situations like this. The plant is designed to a level higher than what is required as far as, for example, earthquake zones. The plant has equipment that is designed to withstand certain wind conditions. And we are very confident in our plant to be able to fulfill providing energy to folks out there that really need it. And two examples of Oramat's geothermal facilities I can share with you. One of them is in Guatemala that experienced an actual eruption of a volcano. And the other one is in the Philippines when Typhoon Haiyan came by. And I can tell you that both plants were taken offline, but they were some of the first facilities to come back online in helping the folks there recovering with providing energy. So those are the three main points that we made our decision to stay online. And beyond that, just to talk about what exactly happened, Tom, is that please bear in mind that we have a clean air permit, we have a county permit, we have permits with the EPA. In our clean air permit, there are several occasions where the steam release, emergency steam release facility is designed to react. One of those situations is when transmission lines are lost. Because what's happening is if the plant is in operation and then in a quick instance you lose transmission lines, you have all these geothermal fluids that are flowing and you have to process it. And this emergency steam release facility is specifically designed to respond to that situation. And that's exactly what occurred. Now, having said that, Department of Health mandates that we need to mitigate the hydrogen sulfide that is in that geothermal steam. And so from the steam release facility, we did use sodium hydroxide and water to chemically treat the hydrogen sulfide that emitted from there. And I just wanted to add on to Tom's comments. We did calculate our estimated calculation from the emergency steam release facility as far as H2S is 29 pounds. And our estimate from the unabated pressure relief valve was 39 pounds. And if I recall, I believe the KS8 incident was about 180 pounds per hour. So if you use 2 hours for this specific incident on August 7th, we released a total in our estimates 39 pounds unabated and 29 pounds that was the result of the abated system, compared to 180 pounds for 31 hours in 1991. So, you know, I feel like our folks and our system responded exactly like our design system was supposed to. Our employees responded exactly like they were trained to do. And, you know, I can add on to the health comments, which PGV takes very seriously. You know, we had 7 people there that night. Not one reported any health ailments. The following week, we had as many as 70 people there every day. No one reported any health ailments. That's not to say that there may be some, but to this date, no reports of any health ailments. Thanks, Tom.
Good afternoon. I'm here representing the electric utility, and I know one of the burning questions you have is why would we ask Puna Geothermal Ventures to stay online when we had an approaching hurricane? First of all, I want to say an approaching hurricane is one of, if not the most difficult scenarios that face the electric utility, and if not the, all of our partners in a response like this. I mean, it's a difficult decision what to do. You've got an approaching storm. Do we send our personnel out to try and respond to what we expect to occur early, or do we keep them in? You know, it's a real difficult one, and the real difficulty with an approaching storm like this is the unpredictability. You just don't know what the storm is going to do. Our philosophy for an approaching storm like this is we believe, for the benefit of the public and the customers, that it's best for us to try and sustain the electric system for as long as possible while still protecting our responders, not putting them out in danger. And in order to do that, one of our strategies, because we don't want the system to get unstable and collapse, or we want to keep that system as stable as long as we can, because we believe that in an approaching storm like this, it's important for people to have electricity for their lighting, electricity for their communications, and electricity for all of the other facilities that they depend upon. So on an approaching storm like this, one of the strategies we do is we try to put online more generation than is normal, because we anticipate when we start getting the fringe effects of the storm that we're going to have some of the generation go unstable. In this particular case, we did make contact with PGV, and we asked them if they would stay on through the storm. That was planned, and that was requested of them. We were told by them that they would reduce their output because of the approaching storm, and then we set up some of our other generators, brought them off from layup, put them online, and then we waited out the storm and went through the events. Now, this evening, I'm not prepared to go through the sequence of events that occurred that day. I invited Bob to come to my office, and we can go over and I can show him more of the details. I'm not prepared today, primarily because our focus has been responding to the damage and restoring electricity to the customers that were out. Now we're in the phase of looking at after action reports, areas of improvement, and looking at the sequence of events that occurred that day. So, I mean, in a nutshell, basically, that's the reason why we asked PGV to stay online, is to maintain the stability of the system and try to keep electric service going to as many of our customers as we can, because we believe that it is critical for our customers to have that in a storm like this.
Good evening, and thank you as well for allowing us to be here. I'll just go through a quick chronology of how things played out that evening. So about 7:29, we received a call in the EOC. We were already in the midst of the initial impact of the storm, that there was a trip at the plant and that there was a release. At that point, the dispatch had informed us that the services were responding, hazmat, the Pohoa company, the normal response units were already en route. About 7:35 or so, I was able to make contact with the plant operations and confirm they had a abated release and that it was going through the emergency steam release facility. At that time, it wasn't known how long the release was going to last, and that was the trigger point for my putting out the radio message that went out shortly thereafter, advising the community that we had an uncontrolled release. And when I use the term uncontrolled, I'm basing it on the duration was not known as how long the release would go on for, not that it wasn't going through an abatement process. It was just unknown at that time how long the release was going to go for. And the instructions or the message contained information about sheltering in place, or if people were experiencing discomfort, that they could try to evacuate to the Pohoa Community Center, Pohoa High School, which we had opened up as a shelter in anticipation of the storm. It wasn't until about 9:15 or so that we received confirmation the plant had been shut down and shut in. There was no other release going, and we waited until they could do more perimeter checks and monitoring on the facility and in and out in the community using the portable units. As was already stated, their perimeter monitors were offline with the blackout or with the power outage. And so at that point, once they had done significant amount of off-property readings with their portables, then a follow-up message was that there was no continued release and there was no other emissions in there, but that wasn't done too much later in the evening. I want to say closer to midnight, so almost 2 hours after the shut-in of the plant. And that's more or less a summary of how things played out in our office with Civil Defense.
The Department of Health has primarily our clean air branch is the primary branch of the Department of Health that's involved with PGV, but the HERE office was involved during the emergency response following the incident as well. So these bullets were put together. I've got copies to provide y'all, or at least some copies. I don't know if enough copies, but I'll just run through these. These are basically the information that the department had put together about the facts of the case and what's going on. So I think others have covered the time of the plant was stripped off, the estimated amounts of H2S emissions from both the ESRF, or the designed emergency release, as well as the unabated release. And the only other information that we had there was the plant manager, who was actually lived in Kapoho, I understand, and went to the plant to shelter away from the shore. they have sensitive meters there, and at the time of the mission, actually took some readings at the plant and then went down Poiki, Leilani, and Lani Puna area and took readings, and those were reported as no higher than, I think the highest was 25 outside the plant parts per billion, and 34 or 35 in the building that he took with his handheld monitor at the time of the release. That would have been 8 o'clock. Let me try to restate that then. I'm sorry. Okay. So we said before that there are 4 monitors out there monitoring the H2S around the plant. 3 of them on PGV property and 1 of them in Leilani neighborhood. And all those monitors were down because the power was off. Excuse me? So those monitors were gone. There was no...
Solar batteries, nothing. You guys, Telco doesn't have any solar batteries going to test it. Information's going off.
Let's please let John finish. There'll be time for questions.
It's really insane the way that you're displaying this whole event.
You'll get your chance, please.
You're letting the demons rule. That's what you're doing, Tom.
That's not
You're
what
not giving the people a
that
chance
is not what he's doing.
Me, I've asked 4 questions already. They have not been asked.
They're not going to be asked till the end.
Hold on for just a minute, please. Can you please hold on for just a minute? If you have a question, write the question down and give it to me, and I will ask the question, because if we turn it into this kind of emotional meeting, and and then we're gonna do it, but we're not to the questions yet. We need to hear what they have to say, please. Listen, I've lived there since 1981. I've been exposed to hydrogen sulfide and knocked down more than anybody in this room. And we need to get this information if we're going to fix this problem. If we don't go through this process, we're not going to get anywhere, and it's going to continue. We're going to try and fix the idea.
Because everybody's being hypnotized right now.
I'm not being hypnotized, and anyway, I don't know what to tell you other than if you want to have a yelling match, we can get up. Listen, just a minute, please. If you want to have a yelling match, we can all get up and yell at each other, and we're not going to accomplish anything.
The purpose of the meeting, I'll say again, is to solve problems. To solve problems, we need to have information from both sides. There have been many things said here that I personally don't agree with and that I will challenge. I can assure you that that is going to occur. But we need to let them say what they think happened. And well, we have it on video. There are a lot of people here videoing, and we can get it on writing if we need to. So if we could turn down the temperature just a couple of degrees, and I would appreciate it, so we can go ahead and listen to the rest of the participants.
This information I'm going through is in writing, and it's being passed out now. I don't know if there's enough copies for everybody. And again, these were just facts that were put together by the Department of Health of what information it had as of this meeting about the event and about any monitoring data that they knew about the event. That's what it is. And the point I was taking, that the monitors were down, and they were returned to service not until August 14th, so they were down approximately a week. And during that time, we just have readings with handheld monitors that are reading the H2S level, okay? And there's a small set of data that the plant manager took at the time of the unabated release at the plant and on the roads outside, And as I said, the monitors, the 4 monitors went back up on August 14th. During that time, the plant was going through a scheduled maintenance, so they were bringing the plant back up for a week during that time after the storm. And there were additional Clean Air Branch and HERE office staff brought over during that time to monitor, to respond to any complaint that came into the Department of Health. And that's what happened. They're repeatedly monitored around the plant. The Clean Air Branch has 10 stations sectioned around the plant, between the plant and the neighborhoods there, where they do routine monitoring with equipment that's sensitive to take H2S readings to determine what levels are. They also responded to complaints and would go out to people's house if they requested and monitor the H2S levels. And those occurred during that week afterward when the plant was being brought up and the maintenance was going on. And those occurred August 13, 14, 18, 21, 22, 25. That's in the information where this monitoring by the Clean Air Branch occurred at the facility. They also do inspections of PGV as part of their work, and the plant was inspected back in May, July, and August during this time period. As I said, when complaints came into the Department of Health, they would respond to those complaints, call them up, try to talk to them, offer to go out with the monitors and measure H2S levels at areas' homes. They interviewed some residents themselves, and we were gathering the information like Tom was of who called in, where they lived, and where those complaints were, what the complaints symptoms were as well, and we are interested in that data. They're in discussions with the Environmental Protection Agency, the Poison Control Center, the attending physicians of people that went to the doctor, as well as County Civil Defense. And since the DOH air quality monitor, the fixed station in Leilani has gone up. The levels have all been very low of H2S on the order of 0 to 1 parts per billion on the 1 hour average, which is what they measure. And the plant has a permit that they have to meet 25 parts per billion, be below 25 parts per billion H2S for a 1 hour average. So that's the permit level they have to meet at all times. And as I said, since the plant was coming up after the event out, as far as we know, those measures have been below that level. During the incident, all the monitors are down, so we don't have that information. That's why your reports are important during that period.
Well, moving the monitors to a different area, they're all located on hills.
Why doesn't everybody have one?
Is it just a question?
Those are good follow-up questions, but and I can take those down or try to address them. Finally, just to get through these bullets, I wanted to mention that again, since the air monitors are brought up, the H2S levels have been low. All the monitoring around the plant during the time period since the incident, since everything was closed in and the plant brought up, have been low. And the on-site inspections by the Clean Air Branch of the PG facility itself have indicated normal operating conditions since that time. And as far as we know, they're meeting that 25 part per billion standard since the time of that uncontrolled release. So again, this is all in writing, so you can share that